Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. So here's a question for you. How do you plan for a global supply chain where reliability isn't just, well, failing, but is actually being deliberately traded away for strategic leverage? That's the incredibly messy reality facing businesses and policymakers right now. Because after a few weeks of what felt like a fragile calm, the U.S.-China trade war is back big time. We're seeing this really bleak strategic convergence. You know, both Washington and Beijing seem to agree the goal isn't stable trade anymore, it's strength, it's resilience, above all else. And that shift really slammed into the global market starting around October 9th. Sources are calling it China's shock and awe tactics.
It was definitely shock and awe, and really quite sophisticated. A two-pronged move, which is key here. China didn't just slap on a simple restriction. First, they unveiled new curbs on rare earth minerals and the vital things made from them, like permanent magnets.
Right, the stuff in everything from fighter jets and wind turbines to, well, your EV. Exactly. Critical components. But then came the second prong, and this is where it gets really interesting. They also restricted the technology.
The know-how.
Precisely. The tech needed to process, refine, or even recycle those minerals. So this goes way beyond just controlling the metal itself. They're basically weaponizing their near monopoly on how you actually make the useful stuff.
Okay, so they're defending the choke point, not just the resource pit.
That's a good way to put it. They control the manufacturing know-how.
Let's unpack the specific tool they built here, because it sounds like more than just an old-school export ban. You mentioned it's like a lever, a dial they can turn. We saw details in that official document, right? MOFNOP's announcement now 61.
That's the one, from China's Ministry of Commerce. And it lays out this powerful regulatory mechanism.
So it wasn't about just slamming the door shut.
No, not at all. It's much smarter than that. It's about installing this adjustable regulatory switch. It creates this chronic uncertainty for anyone tangled up in these supply chains.
Okay, adjustable friction. I like that term. That's exactly what it is. And that, well, the cleverness of it maybe is the reach, the long arm of this new licensing system. It casts a net over two massive categories, even if the final product is made completely outside China.
Okay, what's the first category?
First, basically any finished product that contains even trace amounts of Chinese rare earths. Think about that.
Wow. That's huge. That pulls in components across almost every industry.
It's a massive regulatory headache waiting to happen. And then there's the second category.
Which is where the real long-arm stuff comes in.
Absolutely. This one captures any item made using Chinese technology, mining tech, smelting tech, magnet tech, even if your factory is in, say, Vietnam or Germany.
So they can control products not even made in China if Chinese tech was involved.
That's the power of it. It lets Beijing turn that dial. Need approvals quickly because things are calm. Maybe you get them. But if there's a political dispute brewing, they can slow walk those license applications, drag their feet. That's adjustable friction in action. Trade moving at the speed of politics.
And crucially, this isn't just about magnets for defense anymore, is it? The sources say it's broader.
Much broader. And this is maybe the most underreported part. Parallel controls now apply to key battery materials and equipment.
We're talking graphite, cathode and anode production lines.
Exactly. The stuff you need for every advanced battery. So the choke point widens dramatically.
Right. From sort of niche defense components into the massive EV market, the whole global energy transition.
It affects anyone trying to hit clean energy targets, not just military planners.
Which, of course, immediately raised the stakes, and the U.S. response was pretty forceful.
It was. President Trump hit back fast.
Yeah.
Threatened an extra 100% tariff. Effective November 1st, which is, soon.
100%. Wow.
100%. Plus export controls on what he termed critical software. And he even floated canceling that planned APEC summit meeting.
So classic tit for tat, but really escalated.
Definitely. It confirms both sides are playing a different game now. Strategic strength, asserting leverage that's clearly prioritized over smooth market function.
Okay, so why now? Why did Beijing make this move right when things seemed relatively calm? Our sources suggest looking at it through three different strategic lenses.
Right. Three ways to sort of decode the timing and the motivation. The first lens is preparation.
Preparation, meaning?
Meaning this is about building infrastructure. Strategic plumbing, you could call it. They aren't just reacting to today's crisis. They're installing a permanent, fine-grained license switch deep inside the supply chain.
Okay, so it's a tool they can use anytime, regardless of the political weather.
Precisely. It's about having the capability ready to go instantly deployable.
Yeah.
It's not just a one-off escalation move. It's building a permanent control panel.
Which leads right into the second lens, pressure.
Exactly. The timing feels very geared towards upcoming high-level meetings, especially with that APEC summit threat hanging out there.
And this new licensing leverage isn't acting alone, is it? It's paired with other regulatory pressure.
Yes, that's key. It works alongside ongoing targeted scrutiny elsewhere. We've seen reports about SAM.
China's market watchdog.
Right. Looking closely at companies like Qualcomm. And at the same time, customs officials seem to be giving extra scrutiny to shipments for firms like NVIDIA.
So it's layered pressure, building up negotiating chips before any big talks.
That's the idea. The leverage isn't just about potential tariffs. It's about making compliance risky and unpredictable across the board for key foreign tech firms.
Okay, and the third lens.
Parity. And this is fascinating. Even Western diplomats are acknowledging, maybe quietly, that China's new rules, well, they kind of mirror American tactics.
Mirroring U.S. tactics. How so?
China's asserting its own version of extraterritorial control, reflecting elements we see in U.S. regulations, like the concept behind the U.S. 50% rule.
Yeah, right. For listeners, that's the rule where if a product made outside the U.S. contains enough U.S. content or uses specific U.S. tech, it can fall under U.S. export controls.
Exactly. China's now effectively applying a similar logic to its critical components and its manufacturing tech. They're reaching deep into global supply chains, just like the U.S. does, asserting control.
Okay, so if they're mirroring U.S. strategy, that raises a pretty big question about China's official justification, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Their Commerce Ministry put out a statement saying these controls are about ensuring security and stability of global supply chains, fulfilling their duty to international stability and world peace. But as you can imagine, that rings a bit hollow for some, especially when analysts keep pointing out Chinese origin components turning up in Russian weapons in Ukraine.
Right. That inconsistency makes the world peace argument hard to swallow in diplomatic circles, and for companies, too.
And that skepticism feeds right back into business risk, I assume.
Directly. If you can't trust the stated rationale, you can't trust the regulatory process. The immediate hit is a huge spike in compliance overhead for foreign firms.
Because now they have to trace more than just where a part came from.
Much more. They need to figure out the content and process provenance. Answer that really tricky question. Did any Chinese tech or know-how touch this product at any stage?
That sounds incredibly complex, requiring new legal frameworks, supplier checks.
Immense effort. And then you face the licensing queues where approvals are completely unpredictable, potentially tied to geopolitics.
And we're already seeing the friction bite, right? Especially for allies.
Oh, yeah. The data is stark. The EU Chamber of Commerce reported that by early September, out of 141 license applications from European companies, only 19 had been approved.
19 out of 141? That's a massive bottleneck.
It is. And what's perhaps even more worrying is what officials are reportedly asking for during the application process.
What's that?
Sensitive product information. Basically, foreign firms are being pressured to reveal proprietary tech details just to get a license.
So hand over your secrets to potentially gain market access. That gives Beijing a huge intelligence advantage.
It's a major concern. And it's forcing companies to accelerate diversification plans.
Which connects back to the tech restrictions, doesn't it? Restricting the processing know-how seems like a direct counter to de-risking.
Everyone sees it that way abroad. The world is trying to build alternative supply chains, especially for rare earths where China dominates over 90% for some critical ones.
And China's essentially saying, okay, build your own mines maybe, but good luck building the advanced refineries without our tech?
Pretty much. Try doing it efficiently without our processing knowledge. It's a direct counterpunch to those diversification efforts.
But stepping back, there's a risk for China here too, isn't there? A self-inflicted one?
There absolutely is. Our sources flag this quite clearly. These restricted minerals, this technology, it's all central to clean energy. Wind turbines, batteries, the core components of the green transition.
So using these materials as geopolitical bargaining chips.
Risks undermining years of diplomatic effort, where China positioned itself as a leader in sustainable tech and innovation. They built up significant goodwill.
Trading that long-term influence for short-term supply chain leverage.
It looks that way. A calculated gamble, perhaps, but one with potential long-term cost to their global standing.
And then there's the immediate impact, the price clock, as you called it, that U.S. tariff threat.
Right, the plus 100% tariff. If that actually goes into effect on November 1st, well, importers can't just absorb that. It's too bug.
It has to be passed on to consumers.
It absolutely has to, which means holiday season prices suddenly become a massive, very public bargaining chip.
Just as people are starting their shopping, that would definitely focus minds in both governments.
You'd think so. It brings the confrontation right into people's homes, potentially.
So let's try and synthesize this. The bottom line here. It feels like we've moved beyond simple tariff percentages.
Way beyond. Both Washington and Beijing are now wielding these much more sophisticated, fine-tuned controls. Tools that reach deep into the actual processes of manufacturing and innovation globally. Granular control.
And the new risk, then, for companies, for countries. It's not just about a potential tariff hike anymore. It's this chronic uncertainty, this need to constantly hedge for adjustable friction.
That's the new normal, it seems. Operating in an environment where a license approval, a customs inspection, market access itself, it can all speed up or slow down based on the political winds, not just market logic. Planning horizons just got much shorter and much foggier.
It's a clear strategic convergence, isn't it? Both superpowers prioritizing national dominance, resilience, overpredictability, or maybe even international approval, which leaves us with a pretty challenging thought. If this is the new era of fine-tuned controls, what does that actually mean for smaller nations, the ones trying desperately to build secure, predictable green energy infrastructure, knowing every vital component might now be subject to this geopolitical dial twiddling? Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.